Hey guys, welcome back. Last time we were able to set up our models, and we also have this tracking model. So in this video, we're going to go ahead and look at how to use model forms to create a form where we can create a to-do and also be able to save that to-do in our database. So first off, I want to mention that we don't have the authentication yet. So I'm going to first disable things that require authentication at the moment, and then when we start to work with authorization, then we can enable our authentication for our user, and then we can see how we can restrict different parts. So now let's first focus on creating to-dos, deleting to-dos without being authenticated. So if we go to our to-do, you see we set up a foreign key field. So I'm going to comment out this foreign key for now, then we can comment it later. So when we change something in the models, we need to migrate again. So make migrations, then let's migrate, then just run back our server. So now here in the header, we need a link to go to create to do. So in the header with HTML, so the link to create to do, I'm going to basically move it up so it's already showing. So I can just move it here. So if you come back and refresh, we have it. So clicking it, it's not redirecting anywhere. So we need to make sure here we are going to the create to do URL. So we use our URL tag, then we go to the name. So the name of this is create to do. It's create dash to do. So we want to copy this, and over here we want to make sure it is the one. Okay, so we add create to do. So in the URLs, we need to have create. We need to have a different route here. So let's say create. Yeah, let's just say create. So now if we come back here, refresh and click create, you see that now we come on create to do. So first off, you notice that our content is being sent out from the middle, so we don't have paddings on the left, on the right, and all that stuff. So in our base template, so base is going to be, where is our base? So in our base template here where we render our content, we need to render this content in a div. Let's make sure we are moving this inside here. Then this class, let's give it some semantic UI classes. So it's gonna be UI container. Let's save it, come back here, refresh. See, now it's over here. So to create the form, so now to create the form, we're gonna go to do, and over here, like I said, you are going to be using model forms. So to use model forms, you can go to your app, and then you want to create a new file called forms.py. Then you can create a form. So class, this is gonna be called to do form. To do form. So we're gonna be importing from forms.model form. Model form. Forms.model form. And of course we need to import forms. So from Django, import forms. Like this. Okay, so when you create your class, you need to define other information. So you write class meta like that, and then we want to define the model name. So the model here is gonna be to do, so we need to import it. So from .models import to do. Okay, so now that we have this, our to-do model will have things like created at, things like is completed, and all that funds is completed. So our to-do model will have things like created at, which we might not need to include in the form. So we can set up another attribute here, but before we do that, just to show you how it's gonna look, we can go to our views. So our create, so in our create view, we can construct a form. So you can say form equals, we need to import our model form. So from dot forms import to do form. So we say form equals to do form, then we want to call it like this. Then over here, let's set up a context. So context can be like extra information we want to send from the view to the template. So form is gonna be form. Okay, and now we pass that as the third parameter here. So pass context like that. So now if we go back to our template, we should be able to access this form. So I'm gonna go to the template. So template is over right here. So inside here, we can have these two. So whenever you want to display dynamic content, you can use this, and then we want to display the form. Okay, so first off, you notice that we don't have the fields set up on our model form. So we want to go to our forms and also set up the fields key. So fields equals, if you want to show all, you can do it under all like this and save. Then make sure that the server is still up. So I'm gonna pause mine and then reload it. So if you go back to the app and click create to do, you see that we have an issue. This should be a dictionary. So in the views, so we have context. This should be a dictionary, sorry. So if you come here and reload, so you see that now we have our form and we didn't go ahead to create these fields. But one thing you'll notice that these forms, they're not looking really great at first. So what you want to do is you want them to be block. So for them to be block, you want to render this form as a paragraph. So in here, let's go here into do form.as underscore p and save. So if we save this and then reload, you see that now this form is being rendered as block elements. So you note that we don't have the submit button and the form is still not looking great. So for it to be able to look great, we need to wrap it in a form tags. So form. So if we now move this as p into the form, we need to specify other classes for it to look good. So this class is gonna be UI form. Okay, so if we save this and refresh, you now see that things are looking a lot better. So we also have the is completed. Now we need to submit this form. So to submit this form, we can have an input of type submit. So input submit, then we can say maybe something like submit over here. And if we come back here, so now we have the button there. So for this button, we want it to look a little bit better. So that's where we can now use some semantic classes. So we can use UI button, should be 1b like this. Let's refresh. Now you see it's looking good. So if we want it to look like this, we can just pass primary here, primary, then let's refresh. So now it looks like this. So how do we go ahead to save these changes into our DB? So if we fill this form and submit, nothing is going to happen. That's because we also need to set up the action. So the action will refer to where we want this form to be submitted to. So here we can use our URL, and then we want it to go to the same view. So the view is create to do. So we also need to specify the method for the form as other forms. So the method is going to be post. So we're going to be posting data to this view here. So if we refresh and go ahead to fill this and submit, you see that we get this CSRF verification failed, and that's because every form we write should have cross-site request forgery protection. So Django provides us with a way to add these in our forms. So make sure you add that before you submit. So then in the view, so that's gonna be over here. What we want is we want to check if a user is posting information so we can save it. So here we can check if a user is posting by checking if request with method equals post. So if this is the case, here we can get the title. So the title is gonna be request.post.get title. So that means that in the post data we want to get the title. Let's also get the description. It's gonna be title, not titles. So description should be just description. So for the is completed, since it's a Boolean field, it's going to be sent to us not as true or false. So we're gonna be checking to if we have, so we're gonna be checking the key here. So the key is completed. Now that's what's gonna be sent to us. So here we can check for is completed, and we want to say that if it's not available, we want to use this false by default. Then here we can now construct our new to do. So let's make sure we're importing to do here. So from to do's, import our to do. Okay. So here now we can create our new to do. We can say to do equals to do like this. Then now we can say to do.title equals title, to do.description equals description, then to do.is completed. So for the is completed, like I said, this value is going to be on or off. So whenever it is on, we want to set it to true. We can set it to true if is completed up there, is completed equals on, otherwise we'll set it to false, like that. Then when we are done, we want to call to do.save. Okay, so now, after we save, we want to redirect to a page that contains the single to do item. That means we need to create another template and also another view. So I'm going to duplicate this. So this one is going to be called to do detail. Actually, I'm just going to call it to do detail. Makes sense. Okay, so here, let's remove everything else and only have to do. I'm just going to have detail here, and then I'll remove the form because we won't need it. So here in our view, when we are done saving, we want to return. We're going to be using HTTP redirect. So we're going to be so we want to return a redirect, so we need to import redirect from Django. So from Django HTTP import redirect. So we want to redirect the detail page of the new created to do. So to get the details page, we of course need to have a URL first. So let's create that URL. So here I'm going to duplicate this. So this one is going to be to do slash. So on here we are going to be using the IDs. So the ID is going to be an int. So on to do slash the ID, we want a view to handle that. So I'm going to call this to do. So I'm going to call this to do detail. Then the name we can also say to do detail. Actually, just call it to do. I think it makes sense. Okay, so let's create the view. So let's create this view here quickly. So we can come down here and have a view. So def. So then we want to get request. Then now we can return render gets request, then gets the template. So template is gonna be to do slash to do detail.html. Then the context can be empty for now. Okay, so here when we finish, we want to redirect to this. So here there's a special case because this URL expects us to pass an ID. So that means that here in this to do detail, we need to expect that ID. So here we need to expect it. So make sure you're expecting it. Then on here, remember we don't directly redirect to things like to do /1, to do /3, but we let Django handle that. So here for us to be able to make Django handle that using the URL with parameters, we want to use the reverse utility. So I'm gonna come over here and so from Django .urls import reverse like this. So when we import reverse, now here we can say, okay, we don't know the real URL, but what we know is the URL name. So our URL name is to do, but we also know that this view expects a keyword argument of ID. So here we can put a comma and specify some quags. So quags is going to be a dictionary with the key that we expect and also the value we have. So this we don't have to be rendering it, we want to use these tags instead. So save. So for the ID, every time we call save, we get the ID that was created for this current to do. So here you can do to do .pk like this and then save. So now if you come back to the site, then go to create to do, we can enter some title, then let's enter some description and also submit. So when you submit, you see that we are redirected here, meaning that our to do was created. So that's gonna do it for now. So in the next video, I'm gonna come in, we create more to dos and also retrieve these accordingly. So thanks guys for watching. I will talk to you in the next video.